Hello? Hello? Is anybody there? Hello? Oh. Hello? Oh my god, I forgot to plug in my phone. Hang on. Hi, everybody. Oh my lord. Is it echoing? Hang on. What's echoing? Hold on. Hello? Okay, there we go. I'm very good at VTubing, including the part where I remember to plug in my face. That's my favorite part of remembering how to VTube. Hold on. Please hold. Damn, within smacking distance, too. Hello? Goes to Swamp with Life I never got to submit. Oh, yeah, no problem. I understand. There have been so many times where I've been like, I will get around to doing this thing, and then I never do. Constantly, I believe it. Okay. Let me get that set up. Turn it down a little bit more. Do I remember how this works? Do I remember? We're good. Okay, cool. Hold on. And... Hi! You got your daily soul. Yeah! Thank you for grabbing the daily soul. And of course you give a hug. Get into the pocket. You're not pocket-sized. Welcome to the Pocket Squad. Oh my gosh, guys. It's been a hot minute. Oh. Just every redeem. Just get it all out of the way now. Get it all out of your system. The Skittles. Okay. Hi, everybody. It is bear hunting season. Did you see the fattest bear? Was everybody tuned for the fattest bear? I sure was. I was sat. Oh, shit. Oh my god! Thank you so much. Hold on, let me go through for all the people who did. Oh, I'm a bunny. Hang on. I didn't account for this when I moved my items. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Hi. Fairy, thank you so much for resubbing for 33 months. My god. Visk, thank you for resubbing for 38 months. You guys, that's almost a whole year each. I'm so impressed. Thank you for the hype train. Hi, Tex. It's me, Pink Creature. It is I. Hello, it's so good to see you. Thank you for the 30 months. Oh my gosh, you guys. Oh, we hyping? Apparently it's happening. Oh my god, can you believe it? Sleep Token was so good. I'm so glad. Oh, I'm so glad that you had a good time. I meant to watch the videos that you sent, and then I got caught up with stream prep, but I'm gonna go watch them later. Okay. Just to get this out of the way. As, most of you guys know, and this isn't, like, a thing that's gonna be, like, super, like, intense or whatever. As you guys know, I have a heart condition. And recently it's been worsening. So my oxygen intake is at, like, basically an all-time low. So if at any point I'm, like, stopping a lot, if I'm, like, sound like I'm super out of breath, or I'm, like, gasping a bunch, basically it's literally just, like, I'm fine, but my, like, lungs and my brain are, like, not getting enough oxygen, so you might catch me, like, yawning a bunch and stuff like that. It'll be fine. If I need to take a break, I will take a break. and I'm trying to consciously remember to slow myself down when I talk and breathe. So you might hear a lot of sniffling, you might hear a lot of gasping, a lot of, like, just loud breathing, and I am so, so sorry. If they sound out of breath, it's because they are. Yeah, if I sound like I've just gotten out of running a marathon, out of speaking just, like, a particularly long sentence, you know why. Put your lungs on the phone, I just want to talk. I'll get you in there with the blood also, don't you worry. Gonna have to tone down how hilarious I am. No, you don't understand how much it's hurt to laugh. It's like every time someone makes me laugh in a way that catches me off guard, I have, like, had these, like, several minute long coughing fits. I'm like, this is fucked up. For me, who is the giggler, like, I am the joker. I do love a good joke. I love a chuckle. Leaving Candy breathless. Honestly. So you might, all of you, yes, all of you become unfunny. ASAP. Become unfunny. The giggler. Thank you for the care package. Let me go ahead and take care of that. What the fuck is happening in here? Hold on, my water is being weirdly stubborn. There we go. No more funnies. Alright, everybody. Everybody be so serious right now. Also, Yuri, thank you so much for following. I really appreciate it. I know it happened when I was offline, so I didn't get to greet you properly, but thank you so much. Call the plastic surgeon, it's time. Alright, I need you guys to be your unfunniest today. This has to be the lamest stream that anyone has ever seen, and I need you guys to understand the assignment, okay? If I laugh even once because you guys were funny, and it's not just me laughing at my own jokes, you failed. Activating just mode? What is... Oh, shit! Oh, hi! Oh, my goodness. Hello, hi, Cove. Thank you so much for the raid. Welcome in, Raiders. Hi, Nekai. Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. Cove raid. Oh my god, thank you so much. What were you guys up to? Oh, we immediately lost because of Fry. Damn, it's over. It's all over. Oh my gosh. Baldur's Gate 3. Ooh, oh my gosh, that's so fun. Hell yeah. Cove gonna be here in a minute. Absolutely no worries. Thank you so much for coming into the raid. I really appreciate you. Hi, if you're new here. My name is Candy Crypt. You could also call me Candy. You could call me Cece if you like. My pronouns are they, them. And I am a Dullahan, usually. But today I am a bunny. Today I am a bunny. Ah, thank you for the hype train. I really appreciate it. Wherever it went. You are a fry. You are a French fry. Benoit. Cove the Beach Goblin, thank you so much for the follow. Thank you, thank you. Okay, oh god. Hold on, I'm naked. Hang on, I'm naked. Oh, hold on. Let me move me down here. There we go. There we go. Hi. And let me move this up. Hold on. Hi. It's so good to see you. Hello, hello. You can also call them a cutie. I wouldn't recommend it because you would be lying. You would be lying. That would be perjury before a judge. Just so you know. Naked in our Christian Minecraft channel. When you think about it, you spend so much time in Minecraft naked. You cute. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. What? I'm right. Hello there. Hi, NVIDIA. It's so good to see you. Hello, hello. Immediate titty to the face. No, listen. I spring back into personhood after being a bunny for so long, and it's just directly into the pecs. I'm so sorry about that. No one... Ah! No one else can feel it for you. Only you can let it in. Clothing is typically built into the skin. I mean, technically, yes. Technically. Do you think... I don't know. Do you think animals ever get freaked out when they see you, like, take clothes off? Do you know what I mean? Like, you are, like, you take your jacket off in front of your cat, and for, like, a split second, they're just like... No, but now I do, thanks. Humans do be shedding their skin. They're like snakes. So true. And a skin suit, Tim, let's get the fuck out of here, Tim, we gotta go. Then if I wear other skin, does it still count as clothes as Minecraft? I mean, I guess are we saying that, like, is armor the only clothes in Minecraft? I think we shed a lot of fur, that's true. Hi, Kit, it's good to see you. How do they keep taking off their own skin? How do they keep putting it back on? I think the world would be a terrifying place if I were just, like, an extraordinarily small dog. I'm very uncomfortable about not being 100% fully clothed around my pets. Is it like a modesty thing? It's been a while, not sure when you stream, but always nice to hear your cute voice. I have not. In a very long time, so that might be why. This was something that I was discussing a little bit before the raid, but I have a heart condition. And I have been experiencing worsening symptoms for a little while. I had to go to hospital. It was very, very boring. But I am doing better. I'm doing better. Well enough now that I was like, I think I could get back into streaming. As long as I don't talk 1,000,000 miles a minute. And I remember to breathe. I'm feeling well enough now. I have stopped coughing as much, and I'm not making weird wheezy noises whenever I inhale, which is always great. I consider that a net victory for me. Thank you for the hug. Get into the pocket, pocket-sized. Welcome to the Pocket Squad. But for those of you who came in with the raid, thank you so much for coming in and hanging out. I really appreciate it. If you gotta go, raid and run, go eat a snack, drink a water. I forget how I used to do this VTubing stuff. I'm really bad at being a streamer right now. But oh my god, I forgot that I have a breathe redeem. Okay. We're good. Neck guy, of course, you get a hug, get into the pocket. You're not pocket-sized. Welcome to the Pocket Squad. Need to eat? Yeah, no problem. Of course. Do whatever you gotta do. Okay. So, now that I've gotten all the precursors out of the way, and you guys are gonna be so nice to me if I need to get up and take a break. And I know that you will be. I'm probably going to be very resistant to getting up and taking a break. So if it gets to a point where I start sounding too out of breath, like I literally start sounding like I'm dying, you guys have my permission to make me step away. I won't consider that babying the streamer. Okay. Let me go ahead and get everything pulled up. I did so much last minute prep for this, you guys. You have to understand how much last minute prep I did. I was like, last night, I was like, I should just like redo that really old PowerPoint that I used to have. So very nice. And we'll fight anyone who says anything. I appreciate it. Okay, there we go. Hello? There we go. And gaming. It pulled up immediately to my VTube. I'm so glad I swapped over to studio mode. Okay. And it'll be you. Fantastic. So much prep. This centered. Centered enough. It'll be fine. Do your stream stuff? Oh yeah, that's true. There we go. This is such a good song. Also, I don't know if I said hi, Zuchi. Hi, Zuchi, I love you. Okay, gaming. Hi. I came with a PowerPoint. So today we're doing a character design analysis stream, because it's one of my favorite things in the world to do. And it's something that I do for a living, professionally, technically, which is really weird to say. And I wanted to look at some character designs and go over stuff that I like about them, give a lot of praise and stuff like that. And also, all of the people who have submitted their PNGs today have agreed to let themselves be constructive criticism. Hi, Rabbit, I love you. Hello, hello. Because they made me, I birthed that. They're the death cabin, you're the cutie. For me! But, so this is going to be constructive criticism, right? Which means that nothing that's said today is going to be said with the explicit intent of making anybody feel bad or shame them or make them feel like anything that they've made is anything less than stellar, right? It's all a matter of like personal intent and what you want from the world and what you're trying to put into things. And VTubing especially is so deeply subjective because anytime you're dealing with someone's personal avatar that they made for themselves, there's so much context and personal sentimentality that goes into it that it's really hard to quantify in the same way that you would when you're doing like a TV show, when you're making a comic, anything like that. So good at this. Part of my current design is because of the Gutsy design chart. Oh, I'm so glad that you kept it, by the way. Your design is so super cute. Hi, Badger. Hello, hello. So, all of that to say, right? If at any point in time you hear me say anything in the stream, and if I sound a little bit mean ever, please check me on that because it's never my intention. But also, if there ever comes a point, right, where I say something maybe about your design and you're like, I actually completely disagree with you. I say something about someone else's design, you're like, I totally disagree. That is completely okay because this is so subjective. Hell yeah, Sleep Token. I don't mind. I love Sleep Token. Oh, okay. So yeah, just a little disclaimer. So with that in mind, I prepared a little PowerPoint to get us started, and I feel like this PowerPoint part always takes a really long time, but I also would feel kind of bad if I launched into this without sort of explaining the rubric by which I am judging this, the criteria by which I am judging this. Hi, Loopy. Critique me. My personality, though, not my fit. Your personality is lovely, and you have great taste in long Furbies. It's good to see you, Loopy. I rarely catch you at this hour. Hello. Oh my gosh. Okay, hold on. Let me angle this properly. Critique me, I can take it. And I will. And I will. I will be critiquing you. Loopy awake? That's crazy. At this hour? Okay. So we'll go ahead and I'll read the disclaimer that came with the PowerPoint, which is, before we get into this, I want to offer two disclaimers. The first being that I'm a total amateur and everything I know about fashion and character design is completely self-taught. I've been doing this as a job for a very long time, but I've never gone to school. I have never received a formal schooling. And so any of the stuff that I have may be rough. I might not be using industry technique terms, and that's just kind of symptomatic of that. That doesn't make me better than anybody else, but because I'm getting paid for stuff like this, I think that gives me like a teeny tiny little bit of credibility, like a little one. We love a PowerPoint. Thank you, Marley. I'm so glad. See me around. Yes, I love you. Thank you so much. I'll see you later, Loopy. You can critique me all you want, but no, I may have set a trap or two. Oh no, the booby traps, the spike pits. What will I do? Okay. The second is that this presentation is less about giving you a step-by-step guide on what you should and shouldn't do, and more extending tips, giving you a look into my workflow when it comes to designing characters, so that you could see how that might apply to and change your own process. You might see your power is on point. Bwah, bwah. Hi, Dula. It's good to see you. Is that you're too damn amazing. That's true. That is Visk's only flaw, is that he is simply too good. There's no perfect way to design a character that guarantees a banger every single time, but there are some general concepts I try to keep in mind when designing because I personally find them really useful. This one applies a little less now, because I was sort of adding a bunch of slides in a haze last night. So they may be a little bit out of order. Hold on, I need to angle this. I'm already getting toasted. I'm already getting nerve sweats. Alright, cool. So generally speaking, whenever I design characters, I like to keep in mind 3 principles. What you find visually appealing, what you're trying to convey, how to make it harmonious but interesting. And these are pretty broad ideas, so we'll try and break them down into smaller pieces to really get into what they actually mean, while also bearing in mind a secret 4th principle that we'll come back around to later, which is what the audience expects. So, what you find visually appealing. This is a principle that heavily affects what you create, because it relies heavily on who you are. Every design you make, when it's not for the explicit purpose of being someone else's vision, is going to be influenced by what you as a person appreciate aesthetically, and that's a good thing. Every design is going to have certain tropes and archetypes that they pull from. What makes your design special and unique is your interpretation of it. You don't need to shy away from design conventions just because they're popular, and in fact, you can treat that as an opportunity. Knowing that what you enjoy about other designs that convey a similar story opens the doors to what parts you want to exaggerate, toss away, or subvert the expectations of. There's nothing wrong with doing something that's popular, right? This is something that I'll touch on a little bit later, but we all make fun of, like VTuber asymmetry, like the one tall sock, the one short sock, whatever, stuff like that. And there's a reason why people do stuff like that, is because it looks kind of good. It gives you an opportunity to do more interesting things with the design. And so when it comes to like, oh, I like this thing that's really popular. I love split hair colors. I love heterochromia and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes when you use something that's really popular, it can enable you to show off where you yourself shine, because what you do will always be unique. Even if you're doing something that like a ton of other people have done, what will bring people back isn't always necessarily, oh, this person is like doing the most unique thing I've ever seen. It's, I love what this person did with this. And that's something important to bear in mind. I'm sitting and listening so much. I'm so glad. But how do I find what my aesthetic is? Look for inspiration. It's the most helpful thing in the entire world. Obviously, you never want to completely rip off someone else's work, but there's no shame in finding what inspires you and making off with little pieces of them like a magpie. Consider your favorite media, like games and movies. What entices you about the designs of the characters within them? Oh, hello! Uh-huh. Hello! Thank you for the song request. I personally really like to use Pinterest, Instagram, and Harajuku models for style inspiration, and sometimes looking up specific aesthetics like goth or outfit of the day posts can offer a lot of design fodder that you can sink your gay little teeth into, right? And all of that to say, right, the more you see and the more you put yourself out there, the more you expose yourself to, the more you're going to define and refine your sense of aesthetics. Oh, I did not necessarily mean to hit that, and now I'm getting a cheek rub. That's nice. Because the more that you experience, the more that you take in from the world, the more, thank you for the cheek rub, the more you kind of like get a sense for like all the different things that look good that you would never have seen before if you hadn't put yourself out there. So just being curious, exploring, looking into fashion, looking into aesthetic styles and stuff like that are all like really good ways to just level up your character design automatically, like with almost no work, because you'll be more exposed to things that you could incorporate into your character designs. Here's just a little example of some aesthetics, and the question you always want to ask yourself when you're picking an aesthetic for a character is, what kind of character would wear this? How would they style it? And in what settings would that be the norm? So you got a few different ones. You have some cyberpunk with like some little notes about it, cottagecore, divine aesthetics, and those are things that you want to do when you're doing a specific study on like a particular fashion style or like a fashion subculture. You want to make these little notes about like aspects that you see, reoccurring motifs, and determine which ones you find appealing and why you might find them appealing. Hi, Neon, it's good to see you. Hello, welcome in. So, this all boils down to what you're trying to convey. The general expectation for VTubers is that they have lore. This can be super intimidating at first, especially when you look at a lot of people with super elaborate backstories, like being the personification of joy on Earth, or a 1,000-year-old dragon witch that can tell the future. I found it could be a lot less stressful when you treat your lore less as a pitch for a TV show you desperately want to have renewed, and more like either inspiration for what you want to design or justification for why you have the design that you do. Think about the story that you want to tell. Characters exist as part of a story. They're a reflection of the world that they live in, and are always influenced by things that exist around them. So, in a lot of ways, visually the characters themselves tell the story, and it's important to bear in mind what that means when you design them. A lot of this goes back to the age-old adage of show, don't tell, Relying on visual shorthand goes a really long way in terms of being able to convey intent without having to tell people what your character is. C-dubs, no, you forgot! I even saw you do the reminder of, like, I'm gonna come back for this later. Damn, C-dubs, I'm so sorry. Oh, hell yeah, Firefly's gonna have a new season. Oh my god, are they gonna have all the same actors back? Same boat, there's always next time. We'll see if we wind up having a little bit of time after stream. And this will not be the last time that I do this, so if nothing else, it'll be a 2-person stream just for C-dubs and for Kisa. ADHD, depression, go brr. So true. So true. Make a joke to you wanting our favorite show to get a reboot. So true. Man, I wish that Firefly would get a second season. No, it's clickbait, Grebe, don't listen. Hi, Grebe. It's clickbait. It's clickbait. Kisa and I holding hands, being forgetful, and that's okay. I'm forgetful too. This is a safe space. So, conveying intent continued. If your character lives in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, Arctic wasteland, some visual indicators of this might be a thick fluffy coat and heavy combat boots. Maybe their clothing is a bit tattered and torn because they've been on the move in a tough environment and only stopped long enough to patch up big holes to avoid frostbite. That tells a story. That's not to say there's no place for breaking the design conventions in a story, though. In that same setting, if a character's more cheerful and upbeat, maybe they've patched up their clothing with colorful thread and included some cute little baubles for accessories that aren't totally practical, like earrings. Not every character in a setting has to be identical, and sometimes it does more to break away from the standard that you set a little bit. And don't be afraid to get elaborate with it either. It could be really tempting, especially when you're first dipping your toes into character design, to opt for things that you're confident in drawing, but those aren't always the best way to tell your character's story. And remember that it's good to push yourself in safe amounts to try and draw new things. You never know when you'll find your new favorite pose or trope to illustrate. So here you have over here examples of things that are easy to draw, but don't really convey a lot about a character, right? This is a very simple dress, very simple silhouette, very simple lines that you could imagine would be very easy to draw. And then this is a pose that a lot of people, especially when they're first getting into art or when they're a little bit less experienced with anatomy studies, they feel compelled to kind of hide these features that they're not super confident in drawing. And, you know, hands are hard to draw, but the only way that you really learn to draw them is to actually draw them. And when it circles back around time, you know, like when you have your hands constantly behind your back, that does tell something about your character. But if your character is super outgoing, super charismatic, very bubbly and enthusiastic, it doesn't really convey that when you use a pose that's easy to draw versus a pose that suits them. How long has this channel existed for? God. Who's that? Who's that strange man? Who's that strange man whose username I've never seen before? Who is that? Guards. Guards, escort that bard out of here. I don't recognize him. Red Blender's burrito. Ooh, super mega burrito is so good. Human-sized blender, Jesus. Screenshot of these PowerPoints to use as lessons? Absolutely. And I think I have a version of it that I can make available afterwards. So if at any point in time you decide that you actually want to see this afterwards, you are more than welcome to pore over it. I will make it publicly available if people want to see you. Unhand me, you blackguards. I'm as much in this graveyard as you. I don't recognize this man. Guards, get him out of here. Hi, Sai. It's good to see you. Okay, Grandpa. All right. So take a moment to decide what it is exactly that you want to convey. Put down some bullet points of your favorite things and find where they intersect. Find what characters employ certain aspects of those things, and look at how their design physically embodies those concepts. The best way to have a strong character design is to have a strong idea behind them. Even if that idea is maybe 15 smaller ideas, but they work together and they all make you happy. There's no better inspiration than the stuff you like, especially because when it comes to VTubers, this is your avatar. If you go in not sure what you want to make, sometimes it can make for a character that is confusing or whose intent doesn't come across as well. Not telling a character's full story is a valid choice, but it's a lot more fun, in my opinion, to find out ways to tell as much about them as you can in a single design. I got so overwhelmed with my design because the wild ride of lore, so hopefully this will help me with the future live 2D design. Again, you don't have to tell everything about a character's backstory. right? You don't have to convey everything that a character has ever been through. Hi, Private Tucker. Hello, hello. It's good to see you. Welcome in. The Ghosts had such killer design. No, they did, right? No, the Danny Phantom characters unironically had such fantastic designs. All my characters are perfectly well designed. I would be inclined to agree. I think your design is great. Mine is missing hands because 1, I have plans for separate changeable asset, and 2, I don't know how I want the hands to look yet. Yep. That's one of those important things to design. Or at least to get worked out like a vague idea, and if nothing else, just covering them with sleeves. Just cover them with sleeves. That's also a character design choice. I think my design is pretty dope. I'm glad you do. No, I'm pretty proud of it, honestly. So here's a couple of examples. Like this character, oh my god, I cannot remember what the name of the game is. I think it's like Blood Rush or something like that. Somebody remind me. If you know what the name of this character is. But when I discovered that her backstory is that she is a time-traveling magician, Melty Blood, that's the one. Time-traveling magician. I don't think I ever, in 1,000 years of my life, would have figured that out just by looking at the design alone. When your character design is 90% hands and you can't draw them. I'm so sorry, Grieve. Also, hi, Hollow. Sorry. Her design does not say any of that. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, I'm inclined to agree. And so you go over here and you have like Zatanna, and she looks like a magician. She does say broke college student. She does, low-key. And then you have over here, you have Clockwork from Danny Phantom, and that to me is a time manipulator. And so you can really tell those things based off of just looking at them. In my aggressive opinion, I do agree. So here we go into how to make it harmonious but interesting. Now, an important thing to ask yourself is, do all of these aspects clash together? Character designs can definitely have disjointed parts, especially when it's to convey a character's backstory or motifs better. But if the clash doesn't have a justification for being there, that just makes it kind of confusing, and a character can have several aspects that clash in their story, but for clarity's sake may not necessarily need to be represented in the design. What matters with the design is that you're communicating everything you need to. Hi, Scalos. Hello, hello. It's good to see you. Smaller details that could be important but not visually necessary to understand what a character is like or does can be left for personal story development rather than design storytelling. Try to break your concept down into a single sentence, and then based on that sentence, it's a good idea to evaluate just how much you successfully managed to communicate any of that through design alone. Thank you for the song, Rick. So you have over here, thank you for taking your daily soul. I appreciate it. So over here you have, she's a lawyer, and he attends pottery classes on the weekend, which are two very important things about their designs, right? You know, if those things are hypothetically true. But when you have a noir detective, you may not necessarily need to know everything about his backstory just at a glance, right? You don't need to know about all of his hobbies, because what you understand is that he's like a detective in like a cyberpunk noir. I want to be in his pottery classes. Me too. That's what I'm saying. Thank you for the hydrate. Let me go ahead and do that. And then over here you have, she's a lawyer. And her design is sure conveying a lot, but if she were a lawyer, right, do you think that you would be able to pinpoint that at a glance? And that isn't to say that designs that do or do not have those aspects to them are like necessarily bad. But it is important to think about how much you're managing to convey with your design alone, because that does a lot to improve how harmonious, how cohesive it is, and how iconic and recognizable your branding winds up becoming as a VTuber. Sparkle Dog Lawyer, honestly, I would kill to see a VTuber like that. Give me a law student with just a Sparkle Dog furry avatar, I would go crazy for it. Would a judge let them in a court? Would they be allowed to speak? Sugar glider scientist, that would be so cute. I love sugar gliders. So here we go into harmony. Simple things like having a reduced color palette, there's technically no limit to this. Cleveland Institute of Art recommends a character have 3 primary colors in a design. I personally usually opt for about 6. The key is choosing additional colors with intention. Or repeating design motifs makes for a character that is more harmonious. If you've included something at the top of the design, try to incorporate part of it in the shoes. A color is rarely ever used in just one place, and it's better when it's tossed in several places at once. Wait, I got one that's never been done. Yuan-Ti Cult Leader. It's genius! I've never seen it done before. It's genius! I feel like we should have a few Sparkle Dogs. If shout out to any VTubers who are Sparkle Dogs. You are so special to me, and I need to find you. So here you have an evaluation of somebody's What is this? Is this over Silent Hill music? I have no idea what this is. I think is failed to get the current song. What is it called? It's called Makita? I think it is. That's crazy. Well, he's got it, but I'm just confused. I'm also confused. Well, I sure hope it's not saying anything bad. If it is, don't hold me accountable. I'm not responsible for this. Sorry, Twitch. So here you have somebody's like fancy stuck design, which is just like these redesigns of like Homestuck outfits. And you can see that there's actually a lot of really interesting harmony here. You have, it's kind of like a lot of noise. Hang on, we could skip it. Sorry to whoever requested the song. It's a lot of noise for right now. I'll go back around to it later. So here you have, at the top of the design, you have these stripes, right? And you have the color palette and the accents, which is relatively, for a chat stream, just a little bit. That would be hype as fuck if I were playing, like, Marvel Rivals or something. So you have the palette and you have the accent colors. They're all relatively kind of condensed in together. You have, like, a princess-like silhouette and a lot of flowy tulle, which communicates a lot about the design. And then over here you have a figurine of Miku. And here you could see in the design, right? Let me get a little bit bigger to look at. Or I thought. Bigger? There we go. So here you could see the way that the pink in the figurine kind of guides your eye up and down the design, right? So you have up here the like hair ties. A little bit lower. You have the hair ties in the hair, you have the pink of the jacket, you have like this kind of hint of the pink behind them where the sleeves go down, so you could see that it would be guiding your eyes down even lower if the arms were lowered, and then you could see like the shoelaces have that little bit of pink. And that's kind of what accent colors can do. They guide your eye along a design. And here we go with intrigue. Pay attention to your values. Designs that have a color palette with a lot of different colors, but not a lot of difference in value, can look muddy and indistinct. But even a monochromatic palette can look interesting if you have enough contrast in your values. Behold, Mr. Bear. And we look over here at the far side, got a lot of colors, but when you turn it all to the same hue, which is gray, it winds up all being the exact same color. There's very little to distinguish it, and so you could see, even when it does have all the colors in place, it does a little bit to distinguish them from one another, but then you see when you look at it in the grayscale, you understand why it's a little bit hard to look at, because it's all the same value. Versus over here on this side, where you have the little gray bear, and you put all the colors back on, and even though it's all blue, all of the design aspects stand out from one another because they have enough contrast in their values. And so as you can see, contrast and attention to value are just as important as the palette you use itself. It's helpful to turn a grayscale layer over your colors to check them. This is something that I tend to do whenever I'm designing a character, right? I will put a grayscale layer on top of it just to double check that all of my values are in order. And sometimes it's okay for there to be like a little bit of style variation and stuff, especially if you have like a really painterly design style and stuff like that. Then you might wind up having a little bit less contrast in certain areas and stuff like that. And that's just a matter of art style. But it is always really good to double check. This one is a little bit less applicable when it comes to designing VTuber avatars, but it still kind of applies. A lot of tutorials about character design will tell you that shape language is very important, which is true, but not always relevant in the conventional sense when it comes to characters who are being designed individually rather than as part of an ensemble cast. I love you, Mr. Bear. I also love Mr. Bear. Hi, Mage. I hope work is going good. Instead, shapes and shape language would probably be more useful to you when employed in the wardrobe and hair. Body type too, but mostly how you're seeing it employed in how sharp or blocky or flowy a character's outfit might be. Repeated shapes are important, but also using multiple shapes in a design in relation to one another can convey a lot of personality. But for me, personally, one of the most helpful exploration of shape comes in the form of silhouette. The most iconic character designs, RIP, one of these, who has since graduated since I made this the first time, but I still maintain that the character design was truly stellar. The most iconic character designs have traits that make them able to be identified by silhouette alone, and this also applies to VTubers. It encourages you to go a little bit bigger with the design, and incorporate more shapes than you usually would in order to push it into having a better and more clear silhouette. This can come in the form of hair, clothes, accessories, body shape, proportions. A lot of things can change the outside edge of a character. The most important thing is shape contrast. Sonic graduated? No, not Hatsune Miku. We've lost Sonic. Chat better be behaving. They're all behaving very well. None of them have made me laugh. Definitely not. R.I.P. Sonic. You want to avoid long... Oh, thank you for the stretch. And I'll drink a little bit of water while I'm here. Low-key, I'm already starting to have to pee, which is very bad. I've never done anything wrong in my entire life. I don't know if I believe you. Is this an internal monologue? Hatsune Miku! You want to avoid long, unbroken shapes side by side next to each other. This is a particularly common pitfall for VTubers with long hair, or cloaks, or very long dresses. If the colors and shapes within the silhouette are all very distinct and unique, this can be okay, but the less contrast your shapes have next to one another, the less identifiable a character can become. Try doing little things, like adding texture, or flyaways, or accessories that stick out from within the silhouette, and play with it. On the flip side, however, too many shapes side by side can muddy the silhouette and make it difficult to discern what you're looking at. Balance and contrast is the name of the game. Long straight lines next to rounded curves, sharp spikes next to flowing ribbons. You want each element to be distinct and eye-catching. So here you have a character design that I would consider quite plain. You could tell a couple of things about them, especially based off of, like, the expressions and stuff like that. You have, like, the sort of, like, futuristic headgear, a couple of little futuristic aspects of the design. You could see the expressions that they're making might lead you to believe they have a little bit of, like, a cold or more reserved personality. But you're not really being told a lot. And the silhouette, when you look at it, is quite simple. You have this really long hair that is sort of overtaking a vast majority of the design. And then you have the kind of skirt area, and then you have these boots. And all of these things, when you look at them at just the outer line, there's not a lot of things that are really telling you a lot about what the silhouette looks like. And so if you blacked it out completely, her head would look a little bit strange, and it would just be this blob down here, up until you get down to the legs, and then the legs themselves are quite simple, and that would make it so that if you were looking at that completely blacked out, you might not be able to distinguish that from a lot of other anime characters that have long hair too. You kind of see what I mean. And so the cyber headband and the headgear is really cool, but what would kind of probably elevate this a little bit in terms of having a better silhouette would be to have it actually stick out from the hair more. Have it have like a more iconic shape, so it's jutting out from the hair to add a little bit more contrast, give your eyes somewhere to settle on, something like that. Little things that you can do to give people more things to look at. Because the way they are, and it could be one thing if you want them to be relatively unobtrusive, but when all aspects of your design are very kind of condensed and close together and unobtrusive, you wind up without a lot to look at. Versus, okay, I really love Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail. I don't think all of the character designs are over-designed, but I fucking hate Dory. Anybody who has watched me play Genshin knows that I fucking hate Dory. I hate this little thing. I hate this little thing's design. It pisses me off. I'm sorry to any Dory lovers out there. If Dory is your favorite character, if that's your Blorbo, I respect you completely. But what the fuck am I looking at? Every time I look at her design, I love how it came into I fucking hate Dory. Like, damn, sorry, hi Nova. I hate Dory so much. And she has a lot going on. Like, if you look at the silhouette, you have this hair stick out right here, you have that giant hat, you have the ribbon, you have the hair, you have the earring, you have the sleeves, and the sleeves on top of the sleeves, and you have, like, the pants and the flowy bits, and, like, down here. And it gets fine when you get down here, but up here, where all of the detail is concentrated, my god. Can't believe Candy hates a little blue fish. You know me. There's nothing I hate more than Ellen DeGeneres. Hi, Birva. Thank you so much for the Daily Soul. You meant design. Makes sense. It's very busy. Yeah, no, Dory as a character is fine. Dory as a character is fine. As a design, pisses me off. Looks as if you took every Genshin character, blended all the frames into one image, and spat it onto a character frame. Also, like, a little bit racist, but that's, like, kind of an accepted thing about that entire area at this point. It's besides the point. Thank you for the comfy. So we're going to look at a little bit more Genshin, and this goes on a sliding scale from what I consider the most cohesive and the most interesting designs to the least cohesive or the least interesting. And for me, you have over here, look at how cute this is. You have a lot of, like, you have the kind of calico motifs, you have the little cat paw purse, you have the little paw shoes, you have the ears, this hair shape is very cute, it's a lot of contrast in color from the rest of the design, very cute. Beidou, so beloved, love Beidou's design. And there is a lot of stuff to look at. You have, like, the hair accessories, you have the really long hair, you have the flowing tassels, but you also have these really iconic sort of boot shapes, you have the weapon in the hand. All of these things lead to a really interesting silhouette. She could step on me. Down. Down. Let's see. Update, I am picking the dried flour / water fix mixture out of hairs on my fingers while layer 2 dries. Oh, God save. I am so sorry. Godspeed to you in this journey. Oh, Penross, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to the cemetery. Hope you enjoy your stay. You told me to get up off the ground. That's true. I did tell you to get up. That is true. I did tell you to get up. Thank you for the head pat. And then you have over here, and from my understanding, right, this is based off of, I'm not exactly sure what culture, but it is like an indigenous folk costume, which is totally fine. But the way that it's kind of been incorporated into design with, like, the lime green hair. Oh my gosh, hello, Kilda, thank you for the 39 months. Holy shit. Hello, hello. Ah, thank you for the Daily Soul. I made him walk today. Oh, evil. How's the design look at going? Going good! We're going over some character design principles before we get really into it, so that way people know kind of the metric by which I'm going to be judging these things, and also some helpful design tips for later on if you do agree or disagree with anything that I've said, if you don't get your design reviewed today, but you still really want to kind of incorporate a lot of the feedback that I'm going to be giving into your own work. This is just kind of a rundown on how I do character design, and the principles that I personally use, so that way you can incorporate it into your own stuff. We got souls now. Yeah, I added souls yesterday. I was like, it'd be cute if I had a little daily check-in, so now you guys are just helping me clean up all the souls that are roaming around the place. I love Genshin putting clothes based on ethnic cultures on the whitest white people. So true. So true. So true. Made me walk, but we got sandwiches and pumpkin spice. Oh, hell yeah. Dude, it is pumpkin spice season, and I've seen some truly apparent... I can never trust now whether something is real or AI generated, but I saw somebody put up a picture of, like, pumpkin spice ham that they saw for sale at a grocery store, and I fucking lost it. That was so funny. Sucks up a soul. No, don't eat it! The African-inspired region with a god named after an African deity, fucking white. That's... Hoyoverse is truly sinister and devious for this. What did they mean by that? That's real? Is that real? Images I wish AI were capable of recreating so I don't have to acknowledge it's real. One time I wish it were AI generated so I wouldn't have to think about the fact that somewhere out there somebody's buying pumpkin spice ham. That's why I don't respect Genshin players. Again, there are a lot of things about Genshin and Honkai Star Rail that I personally find very interesting and really intriguing. I think a lot of the designs are really cool, and a lot of the stories that they're trying to tell are, but my god, they do kind of drop the ball, like, often when it comes to cultural sensitivity, and that's just kind of the way that we should be expecting better from all of these like big corporations that could choose to incorporate the diversity in a better way and kind of choose not to. Hello! Thank you for the bear hunter. Pumpkin spice ham is real. Not sure about the image, but I've seen it. Oh god, horrific. They do some good stuff, but also some not very inspired stuff, and that's the nature of like corporate produced media, right? Especially when it's something that's meant to be mass produced. They're going to cut a lot of corners in terms of representation in favor of mass market appeal, and it's awful every time. The story they're trying to tell is money, please. Who's putting on like fucking boss music right now? Okay, it is boss music. Pumpkin spiced jummy worms is crazy. Buddhist monk jump scare. Is the bear hunter hat anything bears and the audience should be afraid of asking for a friend myself? Okay, so not like bears like in the animal sense, but if you are a fat man above the age of 30 and you are covered in body hair, you are not safe from me. I'm very sorry to say this. This is normal fight music. This is like way too epic for like a normal fight. What do you mean? What do you mean? Hides, you're never safe. You can never avoid me. Look, I got the hat. Why did I point at my own head in real life like you guys would be able to see that? I got a hat. Sorry, Zeta. Sorry, Visk. None of you are safe. This is Three Horses music. This is... We could team up. We'll pincher maneuver them, Jinx. You and me. This is Metaphor Fantasio Battle the... I cannot see the rest of what it's called. No, it's there. I can see it as clear as day thanks to your finger. Thank you, Tex. I'm so glad. The Hero team is bragged that they have the perfect formula for a waifu, and maybe that's true based on sales, but I wish they'd branch out sometimes. Bro, if any of you guys have ever played Zenless Zone Zero, they are trying to push the feet thing so hard, and nobody is getting into it. Nobody is buying the feet thing. Nobody wants the feet. Shout out bears. Huge shout out to bears. Shout out to fat men in general. God bless. God bless America. Get the feet out of here, bro. It's nuts. Thank God I'm not 30. You have got one thing saving you. They should just make muscular girls instead. You know what? I think... Yeah, why the fuck not? Bless the tummy. I love Siege, she's so silly. However, unfocus the feet. That's exactly how I feel about Zenless. I'm like, it's such a fun game. It's got such fun designs. Can we... Every character trailer with the feet? I'm 34, but bro, I've slimmed so much down. Hell yeah! Congratulations if that was a thing that was intentional. And that was a thing that you were aiming to do. I hope that this has been a positive change in your life and one that you've been working towards. If ZZZ had more fat men, they'd make all the money. They drastically underestimate how thirsty people are for Ben. No, that's what I'm saying, dude. There's like a huge market for Bada, and they just aren't tapping into it. I love there was a mod on day one that gave her Air Force One. That's just so fucking funny. A bonus in favor of having a character design that's clear enough and easy to simplify is that it makes it easier to draw fan art. The more complex a character design is, the more intimidating it can tend to be. This is a factor that can put off fan artists that are more casual or less technically experienced. Less can often be more in that respect, and it can be more taxing to replicate, even for experienced artists, even if some of them might like having a lot of detail to work with. This isn't a must, and it's more of just an observation made out of personal experience. But a design that saves room for simplicity, either because it is simple, or just because its shapes are distinct enough that it can be simplified easily, without losing its identity, will always tend to see a lot more fan artists and cosplayers on all levels of artistic experience, not just the highest bracket of professional illustrators and creators. Fucking Mollymock. I love Mollymock so much. Impossible to draw fan art of. I've tried several times. I am gonna get up and go for a quick walk for like the smallest break real quick. So, I will be right back. I can feel my lungs starting to scream a little bit, so I will be right back. Hold on, I'll turn the music up. And do whatever you gotta do. Do whatever you gotta do. Okay, hi. Sorry. Whenever I sit like this, even when I'm consciously trying to keep my back straight, it kind of squishes my diaphragm a little bit, so it makes it a little bit harder to breathe. Simple designs, looks at my catalog OCs. Okay, just gonna ignore that one a bit. Oh yeah, if you love having really simple characters, or like really complex characters, that is completely okay. Will BRB? Okay, excellent, no problem. Be safe getting home. Hi Scribs, hello, hello. Hope the character stuff and or bear hunting is going well. I would think that both are going well. We haven't done any character design looking at so far, but we have been going over sort of some design principles and stuff like that. So, like, again, if you like having character designs that are very complex, that is completely okay. For me personally, though, the more complex I've made a character, the less likely I am to ever draw them again. And from experience, like, trying to draw Genshin Impact characters and stuff like that, Honkai Star Rail fan art, it is so intimidating to have to try and draw a very complex character design. So that isn't the be-all end-all. If you are happy with what you've made, and you like having a complex design, complex characters, complex illustrations, that is perfect. But this is just a little added bonus thing that I've noticed based on observation. There's also obviously some nuance in general, but in general, simpler designs are easier for a larger number of people to draw. The complex designs have their frail creatures, eager to draw their details just because they love them, but in my experience, it tends to be a smaller group, or just less fan art because the pieces are more complex, so they take longer to draw. Exactly. There are still people who love drawing really complex character designs, and those people aren't wrong. It's just that those tend to be really, like, a very niche group of people who are either very experienced artists, very prolific, who are used to drawing a lot of details, or people who maybe don't necessarily have that level of artistic experience, but just like the act of drawing a lot of details. You will still get fan art, more likely than not, but it's just, you know, it's a little note. This is another reason you shouldn't have your toes out on average. Artists do not like drawing those. No. What is that? Hold on, we'll turn that down a little bit. Kind of funky. I hate drawing feet. If you got your toes out in a design, odds are I will be cutting off your ankles. I'm so sorry. I know when I'm handed a complex design, my brain shuts off and I can't push myself to work on it. Some of it's due to not enough experience and skill, but that's also a lot of things. Yeah, no, I think it could be really intimidating to have to work with a super complex design. I know that whenever I've had to do commissions on really, really complex character designs, it can be extremely intimidating. Ice scribs. I like complex character designs because I want artists to suffer. Honestly, Pen, you're so real for that. You are so real for that. When a comic design is like, here's 1,000 bits, and the show goes, third pants, one belt. Exactly. When they were animating the Mighty Nine, and you see all the animations of Molly Mock where they just got rid of all of the tattoos and the more detailed aspects of all of the fashion, you know what happened. Nobody wants to have to animate that. 3D animation has a little bit more leeway, but 2D animation, there are some designs that I would not give a 2D character, like, just because, oh my god, the idea of an animator having to animate that is horrifying. Keep those piggies away. Put them away. Put on shoes. I give all my characters paws or hooves to avoid drawing feet. I love this for you. I find hooves so incredibly difficult to draw. I have tried time and time again to do studies on it, and I just cannot wrap my head around it. Jaunty, hello! So glad that you could be here. Hello, welcome in. Glad you're streaming from the bathroom. Oh yeah, shit, hold on. I'm taking you guys with me to poo. This is just the way that it is. Not automod. I will admit my design is pretty complex, but my artist loved making complex designs, and she was just so in love with making my design at the time. And again, that's not a bad thing. And a design can be super detailed, while also having these shapes that are very, you know, kind of like these shapes that could be easily broken into, so that way you can simplify them easily without feeling like you're losing the character's identity. And that's honestly more important than having a complex or simple design in and of its own right, is that if you are going in with a design, giving it these really iconic and interesting shapes that can be worked with in that way. As a former aspiring animator and more comic artists, over-complex designs are hell to draw over and over. They are. They so are. Thanks, every time I do it, I think of why he's got socks in the jacuzzi. They're his hooves, you bitch. I love that fucking picture. Hooves good, paws good, feet. Ugh. So true, so real. Wow, I've been obsessed with feet lately. Every animatic Zelatoth, the big bad villain bitch, has her toes out on full display when they're animated, and I need them to stop. They saw what Hoyo was doing with Zenless, and they're like, I need to get in on that. I need to get in on that. Feet, nah. Kitty themed sockies with paws. Oh hell yeah. Talson, you cooked. We, however, are not cooking that. No, it's so good. Molly's design is fantastic. No. Absolutely not. Give everyone a mermaid tail and snake bodies. Honestly, that would actually be based as fuck. Every time I do fan art from now on, they're just gonna be mer people. They stop with the feet, get them out of there. Cutting them off right now. Right now, we're cutting them off. Literally had a Google Doc called OC feet status, and more than half of my OCs have digitigrade legs, despite not being furries, and the fourth have hooves. Oh yeah, hell yeah. Plantigrade, I think is what it's called. I might be wrong. Bottom half mermaid, top half actual fish. The idea of it being like a minotaur situation, where you have like a fish head, big honkers, and then like a fish tail too. So it's like a brief interlude for boobs and nothing else. Because when you think about it, minotaurs aren't like half man, half bull. It's bull head, man titties, bull legs. So imagine if like a mermaid was like that. It was like fish head, fish titties, and then fish tail. Father was a minotaur, mother was a minotaur, I'm just a man. There's like a comic about it. Plantigrade equals flat feet with heel? Hell yeah, I'm so smart. I saw this comic forever ago, and it was honestly really good commentary, right, on what it's like to have like an invisible disability and stuff like that. Because it was a person who was going to like an animal support, a mythical creature support celebration, and they looked physically human, and they were like wheeling in somebody, and they were like, oh, this is like only for monsters, and they're like, oh, I know, I'm just here to drop off my brother. And you see them push in their brother, who is like the top half fish, the bottom half minotaur. Like bottom half bull. And so it's mom was a mermaid, dad was a minotaur, she's a human with a tail, and her brother is an Ophiuchorus. Yeah, exactly. And so the idea of like having two parents that are quote unquote half human, and then you wind up with both of the non-human parts, and then your sibling winds up with all the human parts, is crazy. Actually, the ultimate OC type is pirate, because you could give them two peg legs. So true. It's not the other way around. Fishtail, but bullhead. Very good. Very good. It was one or the other, but I always thought that was super interesting. It was like, it's funny, but also, you know, like, wow. Welcome back. Let's see. All right. Excuse me. A good character design should never rely on stereotype. Cliché representations of certain ethnicities, gender identities, ages, etc. are tired and frequently offensive. Challenge yourself to capture the essence of a character and how, who, and what they might be influences them. Culture influences how a character looks, but you should be cautious to make sure you're representing who the character is above all else. And don't be an asshole. Duh. Book of Life is peak character design. That shit is so good. That shit is so good. El Tigre, Book of Life, both of them are so good. I only picked, there are numerous like examples from other cultures and stuff, especially in VTubing, which tends to include a level of commodification of like Japanese culture and Japanese aesthetics and stuff like that. But I'm Latino and I'm Mexican, and that's the only one that I really feel comfortable speaking to. So this I can say, first one, not great. Second one, fucking peak. Absolute peak. All of the character designs that were in Book of Life were so peak. It was so good. It's people like you that give monsters like us a bad name. Dude, chill, I'm dropping off my brother. Yeah, that's the one. I watched it recently and want to rewatch it now. No, it's so good, and it never gets old. Every time. I love it. They should have wound up in a throuple, and I will maintain this until the day I die. They should have been poly. They are poly. By the end of the movie, as far as I'm concerned, they're poly. 100%. Polyamorous. I don't know how to say preach in Spanish yet. That's okay. Shoutouts to undead VTubers that understand that going left over right on kimonos are for dead bodies. Oh, that's a big one. That is a big one. And you see that a lot in VTubing. There's certain commodifications of certain aesthetics and just Don't be an asshole, man. It's good to be culturally, like, curious about other people, and I want to engage with it. And not every aspect of using another culture in your design is necessarily appropriation, but you have to think about the fact that what you're representing, what you might be misrepresenting, and the fact that you, by nature of being a VTuber, may or may not pop off, but you are almost guaranteed to make some amount of money off of it, right? Even if it's just a single dollar. And so bearing that in mind when you're using another culture or using a culture in general in your design is to think about, like, the ethics of doing that, I guess. Was half horse, half man just playing? I have no idea, honestly. I might have completely spaced it out. I think I blocked it out in my brain. I just have a perpetual blind spot in my brain in the shape of half man, half horse. I think the most important part outside of research is you find you messed up, own up, and fix it. Yes! Honestly. If you have ever accidentally done something insensitive, do not double down. Do not be like, oh, I've been canceled. I have been canceled, so I'm going to go full mask off. Every single person, and again... Every single person on this earth has made mistakes. You cannot know everything, and you cannot know what you don't know. You could put hours and hours and hours of research into something, even something that's familiar to you, but especially something that's unfamiliar to you. And you might still come up short. You might make a grievous oversight that might only be known to people who are part of that culture. And that is just the way that it is. And the difference, right? The thing that makes a difference between a good person making a mistake and a bad person showing their true colors is your willingness to hear other people when they are pointing something out to you, taking that lesson and incorporating it into yourself with the goal of bettering yourself rather than being defensive. Boundary between cultural exchange and appropriation is a combination of research and respect. Go at it with love. Go at it with compassion. Go at it with care. If what you have is, thank you, rabbit. If what you have, and the reason why you choose a culture is because you were just so curious about them. You're full of love and curiosity, and you want to express that love and that curiosity in a way where you are wearing it on your body. As long as it's not closed practice, for me personally, I don't think I've ever met a group of people who was like, no, fuck you. So many people are so excited to share in their culture with you. They want you to love. They want you to understand. They want you to see what they see in the things that make them culturally themselves. But if you go at it blindly, if you are ham-fisting it, if you're not doing any research, if you're stepping on it, if you're misappropriating things, you're not loving the culture. You're loving an aesthetic, and it's more than disrespectful. It displays a level of lack of curiosity that makes you as a person deeply boring. And that is just a fact. That might be the harshest that I'll be in this entire thing. And I don't want to sound mean, but if you have no curiosity and if you have no compassion, if you have no love for other people enough to want to learn from them, to better yourselves, and to express yourself in a way that doesn't come at other people's expense, you are boring. And that is just a fact. Any design that you make with that sort of mindset, that mentality, will be boring because you yourself will not have anything to share. It could have the most beautiful illustration. It could be top to bottom the best design that anybody's ever seen, and the moment you open your mouth, that shit will be so ugly because you as a person are ugly. And that is just a fact. Not to sound harsh or whatever, but there should be no space for lack of compassion and for insensitivity in these kinds of conversations, because people are more than just aesthetics, and people are so excited and willing to share their culture and their experiences with you that there's literally no excuse. Ask questions. Be willing to look stupid. Don't worry about doing everything right, because most people are so excited to share with you, they won't care if you're going in blind. They won't care if you know nothing. Just open yourself up to a world of new opportunities, and you will see how quickly and beautifully it opens for you. And that is just a fact. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. It will continue, but this aspect of it is important to me. I haven't caught making a mistake. Time to have a meltdown instead of being a normal person about it. Yeah, exactly. Time to throw all of my goodwill with the community out the window because somebody called me out for one bad thing that could have easily been a mistake. If you become super popular but you represent X element of the culture wrong, it can start to override the original by being the first impression others have of it, so they think that's the right way and can cause big issues. Exactly. That's good harsh truths, though. Don't lose the humanity for the aesthetics. Exactly. People are more important than money. And that shouldn't be a controversial statement, but people are more important than money. And carrying yourself with integrity and honor is more important than something just looking nice. And we'll conclude that section. Part 2. The visual hierarchy. Within every single design, there's something that I, regardless or not, of whether or not this is official terminology, refer to as visual hierarchy. Your eyes are constantly searching for something to rest on, and every design has places where it subconsciously draws your eye, like an internal checkpoint. The order in which this happens is the hierarchy. Here are 2 visual representations of what that means. The stoplight is more useful for explaining the steps, but it's in reality more like a jawbreaker. The jawbreaker represents what about your design people notice and in what order. Your goal in using the jawbreaker is to guide the eye and emphasize the most important elements, while also leaving some pretty juicy details for when you look closer. It also decides what it looks like when a character gets simplified, like chibis. Usually a chibi will primarily utilize circle 1, lots of circle 2, and the least from circle 3, while more elaborate illustrations will use all 3 but really thrive on enhancing circle 3. This is clearly the visual onion. So true. The visual onion, the visual parfait, the visual garlic with its many jackets, whichever you prefer to refer to it as. Ogre. It's fun to see what can be taken away from a design while still having it be recognizable. A good character design doesn't need to be recognizable bald and naked, but it is good to think about what makes them iconic and how. I personally like to place emphasis on making designs that are easily simplified, to leave them accessible to all levels of artistic experience, to put an attempt towards drawing. The easier a design is to portray without having the technical skill to incorporate all the accessories, the better. First, and this is the first level of the hierarchy, right, this outer layer, is the big shapes, main motifs, body language, height, build, face, age, your most saturated accent colors. Those tend to be the things that people will notice first. Second, individual layers. Your most populous clothing, most populous colors, your clothing, your big decorations. And then third will be patterns, small accessories, jewelry, and makeup. That tends to be the order in which people will notice things about a character design. There could be some give or take depending on the individual person, but broadly speaking, this is where your eye tends to go during a design, from my experience and from some people that I asked about this. Coloring. This also extends to color palettes. Just replace it with how you would distribute colors within a design. Neutrals, such as gray, white, and black, are also part of a palette, but their position as a visual resting point rather than the color itself varies. The first is primary colors. These are what are iconic for your character and what takes up the most space accordingly. Try to only have a couple. The second is secondary colors. They usually play second fiddle to the primary by being slightly darker, lighter, darker, being slightly different, lighter, darker, hue shifted, etc., but in a way that doesn't outshine it. And the third is accent colors. These will be brighter, or more saturated, or complementary to the rest of the palette, but keep things in harmony by only being used to highlight certain elements and guide the eye to particular places and details that might have been missed otherwise. So we're going to play a little game. I want you guys to guess what this first character palette is. These are all based off of things from popular media, so what do you think this first palette is? Yeah, that's right. That's Miku. That is Hatsune Miku. And you could figure that out at a glance, right? Chris Deltarune. I have never played Deltarune, but I could believe that's true. All right, now, this might be a little bit more niche, maybe, but who here can recognize the second one? Amethyst, Twilight Sparkle, Chowder, also very true. Twilight Sparkle, yes, yes. The second one is meant to be Twilight Sparkle. The third one might be a tree. Who knows? It's fucking Twilight. Yeah, that's Twilight Sparkle. And the third one, this will throw you guys for a loop. What do you think that is? Twilight Princess. It might be Twilight Princess, but that is in fact a Minecraft grass block. So you see, right, the way that the colors are distributed, the colors that you pick with the intention that you do, even though these two have a similar shade of this like bright pink for that accent color, Alex, it could be. They have a similar shade of pink for this accent color. They are visually distinct because of the colors that they choose and where they choose to distribute them. And that really, really matters when it comes to character palettes. So, here's the big controversial thing, right? This is the one everybody talks about, nobody really understands. A lot of this, even now, with all of my years of illustrating behind me, I will tell you, honestly, I am bullshitting. Half of the time when I do color palettes, when I am trying to figure out what looks good, it requires so many iterations. Even when you have, like, years and years of artistic experience behind you, it is okay if you really struggle with character palettes. This is where I struggle the most. Color palettes hurt me on a deep and fundamental level. I'm goth. I hate working with designs with a lot of dark colors. I'm pastel goth. I hate working on designs with a lot of pastels because both are really fucking difficult for me. Color theory is my favorite love-hate relationship. Color theory is such bullshit. Multiple times I've stumbled into good color palettes entirely by accident. Entirely by accident, right? But we do have to go over this. Because colors are lies only told. Honestly, big pigment is really trying to sell you on whether or not color palettes are real. We have yet to find proof of that. But we're going to go over a few of them just to kind of get a feel for it. So, monochromatic palettes. Monochromatic color schemes, so like here and like here, tend to use variations in lightness and saturation of a single color. So you'll have a bunch of different shades of yellow, maybe slightly hue shifted here and there, maybe a little bit, but broadly, any color that would be yellow being used in the same design, light yellow, dark yellow, very desaturated, very dark yellow, those would all be considered monochromatic. And then you have analogous. Analogous color schemes are colors that are adjacent to each other on the color wheel. Those are side by side. And you'll see a lot of really cool color palettes that are made this way. You have like the iconic fire, which is done with these kind of, colors side by side. You have aquatic designs, which tend to be a lot of these colors side by side. And so a lot of them, they look good in palettes together because they're hugging each other. They belong, in similar aspects of the color wheel, so they share that space already. Complementary, my beloved elementary school smartass topic, so true. Why is it called complementary if they're opposite to one another? The complementary color scheme consists of two colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel. And then there's also a secondary sort of variation on that is, what is it called? It's side complement, side analogous, something like that. Which basically means that instead of it being directly opposite each other, you'll have two characters that are like the next most opposite. So if you're picking blue, then you would have a color palette that uses that red, which is not necessarily directly across from it on the color scheme, but it is the one kind of side by side in a straight line in this way across from it. And that would be like a side analogous color scheme. And those are also very valid. You see that in stuff like Nintendo Switches or whatever. I love colors. Slaps random colors on a character and hopes for the best. So true. Hold on, let me check where blue and pink fall on the wheel. So true. Actually, this is something that I've learned. If you are someone who really struggles with character schemes, character color schemes, if you use Clip Studio Paint and you make a character design all in grayscale, especially like an outfit or something like that, all in grayscale, you can go into color gradients and use a color map to just do these pre-generated ones onto it to kind of give you an idea where to start. And then you could like adjust like individual colors later on. But that is something that I have seen people do, and it's always really nice. I think my palette is technically split. The blue... I know that yours has blue and orange, I think. What was the last one? Oh, okay. So then you have split complementary, and a split complementary color palette is complementary color with one of the colors expanded. So you have two colors that are on one side of the wheel, and then one on the total opposite side. So you might have red and purple with green, or green and blue with some orange. It might be split or complementary. Let me look at yours real quick. Hang on. Let me go look with my eyes. Yours is technically analogous. Yeah, yours is technically analogous because you have these colors that are all hugging each other down here. Yeah, team analogous. I'm gonna put it all on red. um Then you have triadic. A triadic color scheme uses 3 colors equally spaced around the color wheel, so they'll always be, like, it'll be yellow, blue, and red. Or it'll be green and orange and purple. And those will be always kind of equally spaced away from one another. They will never touch like a steering wheel. And then tetradic, or square, also known as double complementary color. It has 2 pairs of colors that are opposite each other. Triadic can be so rough to get right. It could be tough. And a lot of the way that people make this work, complementary color schemes, split complementary color schemes, triadic, and stuff like that. When you're working with a lot of contrast, the key can be doing like one color way more desaturated than all of the others, or more saturated than all of the others, having another one be a little bit more of a neutral tone. You don't want all of them to be the same amount of brightness, because then they'll be competing with one another. But in moderation, they can all really highlight and bring the best out of one another. So here you have some VTuber designs, and again, we will avoid the elephant in the room. So let's look at character designs and what they have going on. So here with Guargura, you can see that this character design is primarily blue, right? And it would be monochromatic or analogous because it has this light blue, this darker blue, more of like a cyan-y blue. But then you see that there's this big splash of red, which would then be that side complementary sort of color palette. And this provides a huge accent color. It's that contrast that it lives on the other side of the wheel. Hey guys, whoa, ignoring that. Whoa, how did the elephant get here? And so that winds up being more of that kind of color scheme. And then you have Iron Mouse, who is an analogous color palette because purple and pink hug each other on the wheel. And so you wind up with these very harmonious designs. And then you have, oh god, what is her name? Oh, why am I blanking on her name? Blood Flame something. Oh man, Elizabeth, I think. I don't think that's Iris. I think that's a different one. Let's name her George. This one will be George. Primarily, right, this monochromatic color scheme with these different shades of red. But then you have here a little bit of blue. You have a little blue accent right here. I don't think that's Ember either. I don't know what her name is, but oh, Wisp! Thank you so much for the Daily Soul. Hello, hello. So here you have them, and there are a lot of different character designs that you could go with for this. Like, Monarch, Amelie is like a monochromatic blue character design and stuff like that. Like, there's no color palette that is better than all of the others, and you'll find, like, if you look at VTubers and you really pick apart... Elizabeth Rose Bloodflame, that's the one. If you really pick apart other VTubers for their color palettes and stuff like that, you'll start to be able to identify which ones have these, like, you know, is it a tertiary color palette? Is it complementary? That sort of thing. And that really kind of helps to hone your eye for it. I disagree. Bronze and Cobalt is a superior color palette. I am not biased. Do not question me. E or B, just like epic crack battles? Oh my god, wait, you're so right. That's so funny. So here we'll talk about the fact that VTubing breaks some design rules, but it also makes some new ones, such as the 40% rule. So usually, right, when it comes to character designs, you do not want all of the detail to be condensed in one space. You want to try and space that out and to have that kind of spread over the entire design. But when it comes to VTubers, it's a little bit different. Elizabeth Rose, Blood Flame of History. Someone send that to her. I'm so sure someone's made the joke. And this is something that I would, but the phenomena that directly contradicts that with VTubing is something that I would usually call the 40% rule. And the 40% rule is that most of the time when you're streaming, the audience will only be looking at roughly 40% of your design. Even if you show your full body often, most people will be zoomed in until only their head down to their chest or mid-torso is showing. So a lot of effective character designs tend to pack a lot of their most interesting details into the spot. So you have the full body right here, but what you usually have visible, like me right now, is only here. And so a lot of the stuff that you might see that would be really interesting, like on me, for example, hang on, let me see if I can get rid of the blankie. Nope, that's me. There we go. So for me in particular, right, only speaking to my character design, I'm about this much. About this much is all you can see usually. But generally speaking, so much of my character design, ignore the hands, is like out here. I only have down to my thighs, but here is the rest of the character design that you don't see. My hands. Ignore my hands. So here is all you usually see of me, and I do think I managed to pack, you know, like some of my brightest and most saturated colors, and this design is in my hair. You got my weird fucky little eyeball that you could see sometimes underneath. You have the choker, which has like the little magic dripping down out of the neck. You have the earrings that are sticking out, sort of thing, and those are a lot of the details that I thought would be the most fun to look at, so those are the ones that are concentrated in that upper half of the body. Genderly speaking, so true. We have similar rules in character design for video games. Oh yeah, true, because you're going to be, like, there's some aspects of a character design you're going to see and some that you won't when you're looking at things from, like, a top-down angle or from first-person sort of perspective, that sort of thing. We need more 40% for the bottom half. Can you imagine just zooming in on a VTuber? No, there are people who've done, like, full zooming in on their crotch. That is 100% a thing. Eyebrow raise, butt tuber, those for sure have to exist. That's just the feet thing. But for the pelvis, we're just back to the feet. It all comes back to feet. So, symmetry. VTuber designs, this is another kind of thing that designs for VTubers tend to kind of break or bend in a way that's different from most other sort of genres of character design. Rebranding to feet-tuber, that has to exist. That has to be a thing. I refuse to believe it doesn't. VTuber designs tend to be very symmetrical to allow for ease of rigging. Asymmetrical objects on a character design require individual rigging, which extends the time that you spend on a character. However, it's important to bear in mind that not to make all of your elements in a design the same size relative to one another. Two halves of a character's design can be identical without being a ladder. What's most important is adding variety between individual layers so that they stand out from one another, and it helps to use accessories or patterns to break up the monotony or add complexity. Small points of asymmetry also add complexity, like having one strand of hair on one side be longer than the other, or having a slit up only one side of your skirt, or wearing mismatched socks. This is why you tend to see stuff like that in VTuber designs, and why they tend to be quite popular, is not necessarily because everybody is like copying each other per se, but because everybody's looking for little ways to break up that symmetry to make it a little bit more appealing to look at. But that is not the be-all end-all. If you do have a very symmetrical character design, what is more important than having that asymmetry is not being a ladder. And there was a really fantastic piece of art that you see get put around a lot, made by Joanimation, and it talks about how... Sorry, let's move you over here. See here on this character design... Hi, Sauron! Hello! All of the sections of this design are relatively the same size, and that means that if you were to walk up at each individual rung of this character, it would be like a ladder. And what you want is to, as much as you can, make it so that if somebody tried to walk up your character, they would get seriously hurt. They would hate it, they would fall to the ground, and they would die. Because here you can see, like, the variety in the size and the shape of, like, the boot, and, like, the top of the boot, the length of the skirt, the belt placement, all this little stuff. Gotta trip them on the walk up. Exactly. And that feels a lot more dynamic, and that can add a lot more visual variety, and gives your eyes more places to rest on that isn't just bam, 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 bam. You kind of staccato that, you space it out a little bit more, and people have more stuff to look at. Make OSHA uncompliant characters. Exactly. OSHA hates them. This VTuber is breaking all of the design rules. My time has come as a walking OSHA violation. Fuck OSHA compliance. 100%. So if you have an OSHA verified design, it's not necessarily that it's bad, but it's just something to consider. You know, you want OSHA to hate you a little bit. Mario animation with the song. I love the one where it's like a little animated cat. That's my favorite ones. Complexity. I personally like to lean towards designs that look complex whether or not they actually are, and the way that I accomplish this is by layering. Take an outfit, even if it isn't necessarily complex at the core, and once you start adding layers and details, it looks much more complicated. Even something as simple as adding hems, seams, or tears works wonders in terms of giving people more stuff to look at in a design. Tossing in contrasting colors for the accent, giving different fabric textures and patterns and accessories, all little details for increasing how complicated your character appears to be. You know, I should have sent you my Ruby OCs instead of my Sona to see how much of a mess they are. Oh my god, dude. I designed Ruby OCs way back in the day. That shit's hard. Ruby design conventions, to be fair, right, Ruby design conventions are a little bit different because, like, a lot of Ruby designs, I love them, they're a little bit of a mess, and that's just kind of the way that it goes. I'm gonna drink a little bit of water. I love looking at Ruby OCs, though. My sister and I made them together. Oh, stop, that's so cute. So here you go. And this isn't necessarily the best example, right? Because you don't have a lot of colors to differentiate the accents. All of the lines have about the similar weight, so it's not a lot to differentiate. But just taking any one of these little details and adding it onto this relatively simple plain design will give you a lot more complexity. Like even just taking the straps from the waist and the shoulder, even just changing the sweater, adding the hat, any one of these details would be enough to add more character that you would be able to tell a lot about them more at a glance. They're just shy of being Final Fantasy designs. Belts for days. So many belts. So many zippers. It's like Ruby is the exact middle point between Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts. The hardest part of making a Ruby OC is coming up with a suitably dumbass name for them. So true. So true and real. The names are actually easier than I was expecting, but also just looking for names with meanings and stuff like Ruby has. Readability. Readability in this context refers to how easy your character is to understand and make sense of from both up very close and very far away, i.e. being viewed through very tiny emotes or through someone watching a stream on mobile. Some character designs seem solid enough when viewed from 100% zoom, but once you start to zoom out, you might find that details are hard to distinguish from one another. That is a contributing factor for why some people struggle to translate their designs into emotes. This is a problem that usually affects extremely detailed models, and it's a side effect of having so many details close together at once that when you view them from further away, they become visually muddy. I'm not sure what this is from. I looked at, like, a Reddit thread for, like, what people were talking about were, like, character designs that they considered, like, overly design, and this was one that really jumped out to me where I was like, damn, that's, like, a lot. Like, that's, like, a lot. I've designed some characters that are a lot, and that is a lot. I wonder how much overlap My Little Pony and Ruby have for naming convention. Real. The Final Fantasy Tactics Advance 2. My god. My god. Is that a Final Fantasy character? That's crazy. That is nuts. But you can see, in the sense that, right, like, when you zoom in... Oh. If you were to zoom in... if I could... Okay, I can't. If you were to zoom in, right, for just this part, this isn't too bad. But then you kind of start to pan out past that 40%, and you're seeing how much detail is there, while also kind of not really communicating anything at all. Like, any of these details would tell you something really important about the character, but having all of them piled up once tells you too much, and so you can't tell what is the most important about the character. You can wager, like, oh, they have, like, you know, this giant blade, they have, like, the chain, they have, like, all this stuff, so weapons must be really important to them, but you aren't really getting a feel for what this character is like beyond just their expression alone. Where My Little Pony usually has to do with their talents for the most part, it's also exceptions, of course, at least in my experience of making characters for both. Yeah, My Little Pony, I see! Wait, that's so cute! I love that. So that brings us to the plushie test. fun way of seeing people test their designs is putting them through the marketable plushie test, TM, aka taking a character and shrinking them down into simple shapes and proportions to the point where they look like they could be mass-marketed as a plush toy, with the challenge of making sure that they still clearly look like themselves. If a character needs to be simplified heavily to pass the test, consider which details you'd consider necessary and which ones are a little bit more superfluous and might be removed to improve clarity. And if the character design feels too simple, consider adding some details in places that seem like they could use a little bit of spicing up. Ages as talent as transing your gender? Hell yeah, let's go! Now thinking about how many Dragon VTubers I met are also MLP fans, I have only ever known about My Little Pony through my niece, who was, I think, 7 at the time when we were watching it together. And so discovering that there was, like, a whole online fandom for it and stuff was something that only came when I got, like, much older. And finding out just how big of fans people were of, like, this, I was like, oh, yeah, it's good, but it's, like, a kid's cartoon, you know? Like, I associate it with my niece. Meeting this, like, whole entire fandom dedicated to it was like, oh my god, wow, like, it's way bigger than I ever thought it was. I passed the plushie test because I've done this, hell yeah! I lied about MLP to meet my best friend. You lied? Wait, explain. There's someone in the Dragon Council who hosts weekly watch-togethers. How cute! Thanatochemist, hello! Hi, welcome in. It's good to see you, hi. How did you lie? How would you lie about My Little Pony? Doesn't that go against the core tenets that My Little Pony has going on? What would Applejack say? I lied for years that I watched MLP and had never seen an episode until I was at least 16 to 17. I met them when I was... How did you manage to bullshit your way through so many years worth of conversations? I'm sorry, Applejack. You're ugly when you lie, Dib. So do you draw them as a plushie for the test? Yes, basically. Just condense them down into their smallest, most chibiest shapes. And just see how it goes, right? And if it looks a little like you're having too much to look at, too cluttered, then, or if you're having to simplify them so much that you're like, there's no way anybody would able to to manufacture this, try to think about which design aspects you would be able to safely remove that would keep it still looking distinctive and like itself while not overcomplicating the design. No, don't make me into a marketable plushie. Oh boy, my lungs. Oh, it's okay guys, we're almost at hour 2 and we haven't looked at a single design yet, but this felt really important. And part 4 is what the audience expects. Here we are. Time to circle back to the beginning, and that secret final design aspect that I mentioned. This is where tropes come in handy, because what we're doing here is playing with the audience's expectations. I personally believe that every character and character design benefits from having a little something that completely contradicts what the audience expects from them. This is a concept usually refers to as a gapmoe and can be incredibly fun to play with. Young, cutesy-looking femme characters carrying giant hammers, or big burly warriors who are exceptionally popular with small animals, these are concepts to bear in mind when making your character. Now that you've decided all of the aspects of them that tell their story, what is it about them that would take an audience by surprise? What is something that they are or do that completely contradicts how they look, and is there a way to subtly hint at that? In conclusion, this is just a series of small tips and explanations for referring to my personal work process when it comes to characters or character design. This is by no means either a comprehensive guide or even hard set rules. Everything here can be taken with a grain of salt. What I want to encourage more than anything is that you move forward with a keen eye towards the things that you enjoy. Analyze what you like about it and incorporate it into your own design and all the designs you want to make moving forward with intention. At the end of the day, what's most important is what makes you happy. This is only meant to help you land on a design you might be content with for a long time. You got this, and thanks for reading the longest PowerPoint in all of existence. So, that is the metric that we're going to be working on. We have all of these different tools in our toolkit in mind now, and we're going to be incorporating them into how we look at these character designs. And it's not from the purpose of tearing people down, it's not for the purpose of making them feel badly or anything like that. All this is we are looking at what a character design is and why someone chose that, and then choosing just to enhance it. Thank you, Kisa. Hi, Kilda. Such a classic Kenny move when they started. They were still called Grave. Thank you all for having the patience to sit through that. Tear me apart? I don't want to tear you apart. No, I don't want to. So we're going to go ahead and pull up a canvas, and let me go ahead and make sure that I don't have any naughties on my Clip Studio canvas, the way that I like to sometimes. Not you. Not you. And not you. And I am not pulling this up directly on the webpage because I forgot to specify that everybody's ref should be safe for work. So, zap me with your criticism juice. No. This is constructive, okay? Nobody's being torn down. Or if they are, it's with the explicit purpose of building you back up again. Stronger than before. My hue and canvas came in today. Oh, hell yeah! Oh my goodness, congratulations. Have so much fun. You have to show me what you make with it. Candy trying to get banned by Twitter. I'm not trying to catch a ban! You have my word, I'm not trying to catch a ban. So many people having to watch that the naughty bits aren't on their clipboards and screens and folders. Where's the shame these days? I wish I had more. I have enough to maybe not get caught immediately, but I wish I had more. Hi, Wiz. Just in case you want to play, will I have to delist this VOD? Yeah, no, I'm not explaining all that shit again. So I would love to not have to delist this VOD. Let's go ahead and search through. Ooh, oh my gosh, this is a cute one. Let's go ahead and pull this up on my canvas. Hi, everybody. Hello. I kind of get a laugh from my design because technically it's a Ken doll. Yeah, it's all smooth? All smooth? Alright, let me get everything set up. Let me arrange it all. Oh, I hadn't anticipated. All of the aspects that I planned for this, I did not take into account the part where I have to actually take my tablet out. It's been a long time since I've had to do this for stream, actually. All the pre-planning, out the window. I'm bear hunting again. I think I did that to myself. That led to I suddenly realized while streaming once I accidentally pulled up reference of my character where his dick was peeking out. No, NVIDIA! This is so bad. This is horrific. Are you not ever not bear hunting? That's true. No one is safe. No one is ever safe. Not really. Or it could not work. That is also fine. Hello? Thank you. Thank you for turning on. What do you mean, no signal? Hang on. Alright, I definitely turned off something. And I'm not sure what it was. I definitely turned off something. Okay, there we go. Some of my friends do have clothes removal toggles on their models, and I could imagine living with my finger permanently a few inches away from the destroy and bot immediately button. That is so true. Some people are far braver than I could ever be. This is a really interesting mashup. I don't think I even registered that it was. Work. Whose work? Wouldn't it be so funny if my tablet happened to break just in time for the stream? I think my tablet might be broken. Hang on, let's see if killing my model does anything. Oof, that sound alert. Come on, come through, tablet. The Scuff God taking their title. It's been too long without it. It's been too long. Hello? Hello? Am I still muted? Might have been my audio. I have no idea what I turned off. Okay, amazing. Oh boy. I have no idea how long my audio was off. Voice is good, fantastic. So we take our title back. Okay, I'm not gonna think about how bad that might be and how expensive that might be to replace. We're gonna go at it with a mouse and keyboard, and we're gonna hope for the best, with the implicit understanding that this was meant to be way more high quality than it's going to wind up being, but I only have a mouse. Okay, hold on. Might just need a reboot for it to work. Maybe. Do I have the time? You guys promise you're not gonna leave? Is it charged? My tablet is like, it's plugged in. Like, it's, it has a cable. A driver problem and not dead? I actually do not know, because it is not turning on, which isn't good. Different port? It's an HDMI port. I don't think I have all that many of those. Was just getting a drink. Have you tried yelling at it? I have not. I don't think I could. Can you guys yell at it for me? Here, I'll hold it up. Is it plugged into the power source? Yes, it is. I just checked. I went back there, and I looked. And it is, in fact, not turning on. Which is not good. Which is not good. Mine does that sometimes, so I just gotta jiggle it a bit. Jiggle it. Jiggle? Hello? Nope. Next burst of ads is happening. Oh, great. Fantastic. Okay, you know what? That might be... Heading out for family stuff. I'll definitely be watching the VOD, as long as you don't pull up the spicy stuff and have to nuke it, of course. Yeah, assuming that I don't manage to do that, absolutely. Thank you for being here, Jaunty. I really appreciate it. Oh, that's not good. Okay. Run out driver, just in case you restart the driver under Windows, search for services without restarting the computer. Not the pinche tableta. Okay. Do you guys promise you're not going to go anywhere? You're not going to leave me? About to be movie night? Yeah, thank you so much for popping in. I really appreciate it. Okay. I'm going to restart real quick to see if that winds up fixing my tablet. and it shouldn't be too long. Maybe not long enough for Twitch to even register that it's over, but if it does, I am so sorry. I'll be back in like a couple of minutes. I'm gonna go restart it. I have too much goop to go elsewhere. I understand. Thank you for doing this. I always love listening to your art talks. Thank you so much. That's so sweet. Oh my god. Wah, wah, wah. Okay, hold the line. I'll be back in a minute. Hold on.